Really appreciate the opportunity to talk about how the industry cooperates and the importance of that to the industry and to us as individuals. And really means a lot to be asked to talk today with Bob and the relationship and the things that he's done for me personally and professionally, and it's a great honor to be here. When John reached out to me midsummer and asked if I would speak, he said kind of the background with the honoring of Bob and his legacy and thing, and my answer was anything for Bob, we can do that. He asked me to speak, and he sent me an email, and it said, "I want you to speak about coopetition." And I said, "I'll speak on anything for Bob, but I think you misspelled a word. I think that word is cooperation." So that kind of gives you a level of my knowledge of what coopetition is, but we've got a good expert in that area, and so I'll give my view of how the industry can cooperate, compete, and work together. So to prepare for this, I thought, well, since I don't know what the subject is, I should get more prepared, and I ordered a book to try and read. And then I thought, well, I've been speaking about things I don't know about for 30 years, so why really get prepared? But so I didn't read this book. I looked at it. I saw that we were going to have a distinguished speaker, and decided, well, I'll talk about what I know and what I think about, and not become an expert on coopetition because we have an expert speaker. So I was reading another book. Okay, so this is a book that I read instead of the book on coopetition, and a little story about this book. So I have 7 children, ages 25 down to 5. Okay, and I've got one girl, my daughter. She just started her career, just graduated from Iowa State. She's a food scientist, and she started with Cargill. And maybe you guys that have children, you have one child that's exactly like you, right? And her and I butt heads. I mean, I got 6 boys, and sometimes I wonder if they're capable of breathing. But she is, her and I butt heads. We're a lot alike. And she came home after about a month on the job and said, "Dad, I'm doing great. I figured it out. I'm working hard. I'm getting to work early. I'm figuring out what it takes to be successful in Cargill and in my job." And I thought, wow, after 22 years now, she's finally listened to me. She's learned from my experience. I said, "Haley, honey," I said, I'm glad that all these lessons I've taught you, all these things that I've given you over time, I'm glad you're applying them." And she said, No, Dad. She said, "We're studying this book called Habitudes, and it's what's teaching me how to do these things." So Habitudes, a couple of points here. One, it's a very good book as a reference on the things that young people need to be successful, not only in industry but in life. It's a quick read, and they're using it in her leadership program or development program to talk about some of those things. And I've actually started using it within Iowa Select. But I think the point here, one thing that we have to continue to do as part of Bob's legacy is to continue to develop young people, okay? And to teach and mentor. I can go back from the people that mentored me, Dr. Staley, Bob, Randy Stacker, Stephen. We're lucky to have those relationships, and none of us would be here today if we didn't have those relationships. I think the other part of that is it takes time, okay? It takes time, and think about the time that Bob did that, and all the people that are in here, either as students or people that he influenced. And we owe that back to the other young people in here, even though it takes time. Bob would call up and say, "Hey, I've got a student that wants to learn about truck washes. I want to send him down." I say, "Okay, we'll get something lined up. I'll spend some time with him." when's he coming? Well, he's on his way there right now, you know. But we need to do that. And I think, you know, in terms of the spirit of coopetition, you don't know who you're training. You don't know that they're going to work for you. You don't know that they're going to work for somebody else in the industry, or they're going to be a competitor. And you could be really closed-minded and say, I'm only going to help people that are going to benefit my company or me. But what Bob was about, and I think what this industry is about, is helping young people and putting the good of the industry and the good of the whole versus being selfish and individually influencing or helping those people that are only going to help themselves or help your organization. So I think that's an example of coopetition. It's a good book. So some other examples of why we need it. I sit in on, I think, 3 presentations yesterday talking about the Swine Health Monitoring Project. Okay, and the level, 2.3 million sows, the number of farms that are involved with that. And you think back to the evolution of that, I don't know, 7 or 8 years that has been going on, and how it's grown and how it's developed. And the intent of that is producers who are willing to share their information in the interest of national disease control. Okay? Not in the interest of improving their system individually, not in the interest of influencing their business, but in the interest of proving the entire nation's disease control. And I think that's I think it's great that the University of Minnesota here named it in Bob's honor. I think that's just an example. So why do we need the National Swine Health Monitoring Project? Why do we need to cooperate the industry? And that's really sums it up. To try and get the industry better, to try and improve health. And once one individual system improves in the essence of disease control, the entire industry improves. And I just, to look and to talk about yesterday all the presentations and how people are utilizing that data and analyzing that data and digging into that data to improve individual systems, improve individual farms, but to improve the whole, I think is a good example of coopetition. And we participate in that. I know a lot of individual systems within that participate, and I think that's great. And the one young lady from Ohio State that recently, that talked yesterday, and I think it was pointed out in a couple of presentations there, that data is only as good as the effort that we put into it. Okay? So I guess my challenge is I do see benefit in it. I think a lot of people in this room see benefit in it. The only way that data can be utilized and to do the industry good is to make sure that we're timely and we put good information in. Okay? And not see it as, that we're giving away a secret in terms of one area versus another on PRRS control and those types of things. But it'll help continue to learn, continue to push forward with the goal of improving the health of the industry. I think another example of why coopetition or working together is critical for the industry. I think the best example that I could, as I put this presentation together, was PED. Okay, I've never in my career seen the industry come together so quickly around a common issue and a common cause as it did with PED. I think back to May of this would be 4 years ago now, when it first happened in the United States, and it was on a Monday. And by Saturday, Joe Connor had arranged a conference call on a Saturday morning to talk about because I didn't know what it was. A lot of people didn't know what it was, but, we had it. We were scared. And all the people that participated in that and in the information that was shared, Luke and experiences in their system, and Matt Ackerman over in Indiana, and all the people, and Tim, and going out to packing plants and looking at the incidents in the packing plants and how widespread of issue with this was, and Dr. Geske, what they did at the packing plants. All of that happened in a short period of time. Now, there was an interest individually for their systems. Absolutely. There was an interest because it was a bad deal. It threatened individual systems, individual companies. It did ours for sure. But I think what that spirit was that, we were trying to do it to protect our entire industry. We had to develop diagnostics. We had to develop better information systems about where it was at, where it was spreading, how it was spreading. The work that Scott did on the epidemiology or the origin of the disease. Tremendous effort, an effort that came out publicly, quickly. People communicated. And it helped reduce, not eliminate, but it helped reduce the incidence down to a manageable problem, something that could have influenced and really been extremely detrimental and threatened our entire industry. And if people would have said, hey, I live here, I don't have PED, I'm not going to help in this, I'm not going to work in this, we wouldn't be where we're at today. So, the industry came together quickly, and to me, a shining example how coopetition works. Another reason for coopetition, and this is a picture of central Iowa. This is one of our farms there in the center, and all the finishing barns that are around there. Now, why do we need coopetition or to work together? Because we all live together, right? We all live in the same neighborhoods. We have barns in the same neighborhoods. And you think about the area regional control programs and the attempts at area eradication. I think Bob was a tremendous advocate for those, a tremendous advocate and innovator in trying to develop those. And I think the one thing that we found, and we participate in a couple of those in northeast Iowa with Ross and Laura and those guys, and then in southern Iowa with the Cactus guys and the JBS guys down there. So, it takes work. It takes work to continue to provide that information, update the maps, and I think it's helped. I think if you look at those areas, not that we've had complete eradication in those areas by any stretch of the imagination, but we know what's going on. We know what's in the area. We know how to react. And I think it's very, very helpful. And I think the other thing that's done, there's been a lot of informal things beyond PERS or beyond the mapping that we work together on in terms of things that influence a particular area, whether that be other diseases such as flu, PED, whatever it might be, other areas of interest. That getting together and having that discipline and structure to meet, to talk about and communicate those things helps more than just knowing what PERS virus and what PERS strain. We know what's going on. We work together. We're neighbors. We compete, but we help each other. Another example of coopetition, I think, is this program here today. I think if you look at and how things have evolved over the course of time, how transparent we are in information. I thank Gary and Stephen and Luke and the Seaboard guys yesterday for standing up and talking about things that are pertinent to the industry around FMD, and Luke sharing some things around biosecurity and things that they've learned. Stephen and Gary and Luke and Craig and Joe and all of they're busy. They got a lot going on. They're building a packing plant they're adding south. But they took the time to prepare and present to all of us in here out of their busy schedule because they believed that it would help the industry. Okay? It's not easy. It's not like there's no effort into doing those types of things, but there's an inherent need or feel that we need to talk about these things to help the industry improve. And that type of transparency, that type of communication is what helps this industry improve. It helps challenges each other on innovation and trying to get better. But the things that we share at these conferences, is well worth the time. And I think one of our responsibilities, and I think it's a true example and true legacy of Bob's, that they're able to pull this together and have this type of conference and this type of sharing. I was talking to Stephen. He said, "Well, Bob asked, so we would do it." And I think the challenge is, as we go forward, when you're asked, you need to give back and participate in these types of things, whether it be at a session like this, whether it be at one of the breakout sessions. That's our duty, I think, as an industry as a whole, to continue that legacy, continue to innovate, continue to push each other, and continue to be transparent about how we do things and how we operate. Along the lines of transparency, benchmarking, there's formal and informal ways that people benchmark. But I think the thing that's changed and evolved is how much more transparent we are with our data. Bob and his group and Daniel Linares now at Iowa State, when he was at Minnesota, they had the key, the code to all the data that we had. They could look and see how bad we were, and how bad we still are. But the point there is that to challenge yourself to be transparent, because they're smart guys and they're innovative guys, and they will help you innovate. And I think that as we have more data and the more transparent that we are, I think that transparency helps lead and develop that innovation and the continued improvement on a lot of fronts within the industry. I think another thing on Coopetition, and I think that was a lot of what Gary and Luke talked about yesterday, was some of the industry efforts. And Steve, I don't know if I spelled Berman's name right, but I think Steve and the efforts that he's done for pulling the industry together to work against some of those things, the Berman effort against HUS, some of the things around animal well-being, the session John had yesterday, where we talk about those things, talk about what we're doing, things like pen gestation, judicious antibiotic use, some of the industry issues that influence our market. And again, we're very transparent around those things. What we're doing as a system, what other systems are doing. And it's successful as we communicate those things to our customers, that there is a sense of unity, a sense of transparency around how we operate and how we do. And I think sessions like yesterday, some of the informal collaborations, some of the efforts that that Steve does with the Berman Group, and some of those things are very helpful as we talk to our customers and continue to communicate what we do, which is as, if not more important than any of the technical things that we'll talk about. But really, I think, what Bob would say is, when one individual gets better, the whole gets better. I think the things that we talk about, whether that be technical issues, PERS, animal well-being, judicious antibiotic use, when we share that information, when we work together, the whole gets better. And as the industry gets better, the industry is more competitive, the industry is better, we're all better. And I think that is one of Bob's legacies. I think to end here, I think, we talk a lot about Coopetition, and I think, the reality is we're all very competitive too, okay? I have a business, Gary has a business, everybody in here has a business, okay? And it's a tough business, right? It is competitive, and we are competitors, okay? Whether it be for a customer, for a packer, for sales, for sites, for female, whatever, we do compete, okay? And I think the one thing that I've learned is, everybody has a different business model, okay? What is necessary for Iowa Select to be successful may not be the same for Seaboard. It may not be the same for Schwartz Farms. It's different for every individual company, okay? And I think different companies have different fundamental beliefs in terms of how they want to operate, how they want to do things. I think Clayton Johnson, in his talk around PRRS, he really laid out, some of the economics around PRRS control. The title of the talk is "How Come We Haven't Made More Progress?" And he laid out well the issue of PRRS. I mean, he laid out the economics. There's certain companies and there's data to support that eradication or elimination of PRRS may not be the best economic choice. And I think he did a brilliant job with that, and I think his data is very valid, and I think that's true. And different companies are going to choose how they operate based upon their economic model. And some companies, every company is going to have their philosophy, and there's going to be differences amongst all of us. Okay? I think that the thing that we can't do is to take, just because somebody's different or somebody has a different business philosophy or a different business model, it's not personal. It's not them saying that they're better than we are, we're smarter than you are. It's just that they operate differently. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Okay? So don't, you can't dismiss a company's decision of what they do is right or wrong, or their philosophy is right or wrong. You need to understand that we are different. We're going to compete. We are going to do things different. But when the opportunity arises, there's a tremendous good that can be done to share some of those business philosophies, some of those business practices, and cooperate to move the industry forward. So we're never all going to be the same. We're never going to operate the same. But I think in the essence of this talk and what I think Coopetition means, we can work together on common things. We can share that information to innovate, to move the industry forward, make it more competitive, and continue to get better.